Question came in from a Trucking Wins member. Hey John, could you do a video on medical qualification? What disqualifies a driver from operating and or going and getting a CDL as a beginner? I'm 52 years old, I have some medical issues, but I'm just fine driving my personal vehicle every day. My main concern, other than what I mentioned, is I'm blind in my right eye. It's never caused me any problems in the past. Hey John, thanks. I love your videos. Well, appreciate the shout out. So let's go through this question. Medical qualification. All right, this is FMCSA's website that you see in front of you. Regulations. When I click on this tab, this first bullet here gets me in the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations. When I scroll down to 391, very important. It's driver qualification of drivers. I click on this right here. And then as I scroll down, I go to 391.41, physical qualifications of drivers. Now, when I get to this section, I'm in the green book talking about physical qualification. This driver mentioned blind in one eye, physical qualifications. I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be. The medical examiners have to follow this section of the regs to decide whether you're physically qualified or not. If I hit Command F and I type in here vision, all right, it says here, has a distance acuity and it outlines it in both eyes, with or without corrective lenses, in both eyes. So at first glance, this driver is not qualified. Being blind in one eye will not give you the visual acuity that you need in both eyes. So then you'd have to go and try to pursue a vision waiver, given that you are blind in one of your eyes. But whether you have high blood pressure, heart attack, stent, stroke, you're missing fingers, you're missing limbs, you have vision issues, diabetes, it's all outlined in 391.41. So then we talked about, okay, physical qualification of drivers was just covered. What about obtaining a CDL? So now I'm going to go back to this section of the FMCSA safety regulations, and instead I'm going to go to 383. CDL. Obtaining a CDL. There's a lot of information in 383 about obtaining a CDL, but one is 383.51, disqualification of drivers. So it's got some general information about driver disqualification, but these charts in here is what I want you to see. It talks about operating under the influence, whether you're in a CDL truck or a non-CMV. That's what these charts break down. Having a concentration too high, if you look on the left, refusing a test, leaving the scene of an accident, using a vehicle to commit a felony. So it goes on in this left-hand column, and then if you look across, it tells you what your ban of either obtaining or keeping a CDL is. So 391.41 is the physical qualifications. 383.51 is the CDL disqualifications. So now we've covered CDL and physical disqualifications. Now, what's changed recently? ELDT, if you go to Part 380, Special Training Requirements, and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, this section, Entry-Level Driver Training, 380 to 700 to 725. In February of 2022, about a year ago or so with the recording of this video, they changed the requirements to obtain a CDL. Now, to get a Class A, you have to go through this CDL training curriculum. You have to have theory instruction. You can see that right here. Then you go down and you have to cover all these areas. When you go through all these different areas and you complete classroom theory instruction, then you're going to have to go it's called behind the wheel range. Behind the wheel range is getting some behind the wheel experience while in a parking lot. That's right here. And it shows all the maneuvers you got to do behind the wheel range, which is in a parking lot. After you're done with the theory and then you're done with the behind the wheel range, then you've got to do behind the wheel public road. Behind the wheel public road, and there's a lot in here as you see me scrolling by. Behind the wheel public road is you going behind the wheel out on the road and following this curriculum. If you want an in-depth instruction on the ELDT, entry-level driver training requirements outlined in Part 380 here, You literally need to go to Trucking Wins and click on that video because I've recorded one that outlines this a little more in its entirety. To go back to the question that this one driver had, physical qualifications of drivers. We covered that with 391.41. And then CDL disqualifications, we covered that with 383.51. And then what you need to do and not to do to get a new CDL today, we covered that in 380.700. So those are the three areas that help answer his question. And I'll tell you, just because something's never caused a problem operating your personal vehicle, you're subject to these federal motor carrier safety regulations. So unfortunately for this driver, being blind in your right eye, you're going to have a lot of hoops to jump through in order to be qualified.